All right. Hi, everyone. For those of you who haven't seen me before, I am Kelly Zink. I am going to go ahead and turn the camera off so you can see what you really want to see here. If anybody cannot get the sound, there is a phone number that you can call into under meeting info. And it has the number and the PIN and everything for it. So everything is in there if you need it. All right. So first and foremost, I know what you guys really want to hear about is your letters that are coming out. We send letters every year to all the districts with a specific set of WISER IDs and the instructions for how you will need to send them in for review. For large, medium, small districts this year, we went ahead and selected 20 WISER IDs, and then you will need to choose 10 of those to send in for review. Similarly, for the small districts, we selected 10 WISER IDs at random, and you'll need to choose 5 to send in for review. Of course, there's a little caveat here because some of you in the larger districts are probably not going to have 20 WISER IDs, so even if you had 16 or 17 WISER IDs, you'll still need to send 10 in. And then also, if you don't have a full 10, you'll still need to send 5. Again, if you even have less than 5, it'll instruct you in the letter, but you'll just send whatever it is that you have. And then we are going to go through all of the files that you send, and we'll review them using the NSTAC Indicator 13 checklist. We did provide that to all of you in the initial letters that we sent out. There's also a link on our WinWeb. So if you go to winweb/resources/transition, the checklist is listed there, so it's in a couple different places for you. And if a district does score less than 100%, these steps are repeated with an additional set of files that are requested and reviewed. All right. So this is what that NSTAC checklist looks like. If you haven't received it, I will go ahead and provide the link at the very last slide here. But if anybody needs it, please email me and I'll just send it to you individually. So the very first question on the checklist is, are there appropriate measurable post-secondary goals that cover education or training, employment, and as needed independent living? Post-secondary goals are required in the areas of education, training, career employment. And the decision as to whether or not to include the goal of independent living does rest with the IEP team. And it is best practice to indicate, based on assessment data, no goal is needed if you don't need a post-secondary goal for independent living. The goal must focus on what the student will do after exiting the public school system. So, i.e., after high school, Nancy will do the following. Use the word will when describing the post-secondary goal. Wants, wishes, hopes to, and other similar words are not measurable. The post-secondary goal must be an actual outcome and not an activity or a process. Best practice is to use active rather than passive voice, i.e. the student will participate in on-the-job training rather than will receive on-the-job training. Again, that's just student-centered. We want to focus on what the student will be doing post-secondary, not what they will be getting from a program or post-secondary education. The use of one word, such as military, nurse, college, is not a measurable goal. The post-secondary goal should succinctly state what the student will do and be based on findings from a transition assessment conducted with the student. Post-secondary goals in education, training, career employment, and if appropriate, independent living must have corresponding annual goals in transition services. So some examples of post-secondary goals, and some of these were taken directly from some of your IEPs with the names changed, of course. So some good examples that we have under education and training are, after high school, Becky will enroll in the General Associate Program at the community college. Upon graduation from high school, Bob will attend a community-based vocational program. For career employment, after high school, Jessica will work at a restaurant or other food service business. Upon graduation from high school, Bob will work in a community-based sheltered workshop environment. For independent living, again, if it's necessary, following Bob reaching maximum age for services, he will live semi-independently with a roommate in an assisted living environment and utilize public transportation to access his community. After graduation, Tanya will live at home and independently participate to the maximum extent possible in her daily routine. So again, all of these goals that are listed here, they're all measurable, they use active rather than passive voice, and they're very specific to what they will do when they leave the public school system. Question 2 on the checklist is, are the post-secondary goals updated annually? The post-secondary goals for education, training, career employment, and as needed independent living skills are documented in the student's current IEP. So if they're in the current IEP, we do know that it has been updated annually. The post-secondary goal is clearly stated and updated in the present levels of academic achievement and performance in the IEP. The PLAF statements should have some connection to the student's identified post-secondary goal. And transition assessment is meant to be a continuous process which should inform the identification of, development of, and fine-tuning of post-secondary goals each year. So some examples for updated annual post-secondary goals are, based on the assessment analysis, Lindsay's post-secondary goals for attending the community college and working in the child care field are attainable. She has achieved her annual goals this past year and is on track to meet her graduation requirements. In addition, Lindsay has indicated these identified post-secondary goals continue to be her focus for post-school plans. Another one, based on the academic and career assessments, it is evident that Adam's career choice is attainable and realistic. Adam will need to continue to build his reading and writing skills and learn to use assistive technology to support written expression. These skills will enable him to experience success in college classes and later as a construction operations manager. Question 3 from the checklist. Is there evidence that the measurable post-secondary goals were based on age-appropriate transition assessment? So each year, the IEP must be based on newly administered or reviewed age-appropriate transition assessment. The student's strengths, interests, and preferences must be considered. As with all assessments, transition assessment documentation should include the name of the assessment, the date of the administration, interpretation, and who administered or interpreted it. Transition assessments can be formal or informal. So an interview with the student is acceptable, but just interviewing the parents or caregivers is not an acceptable form of an assessment. Question 4 from the checklist, are there transition services in the IEP that will reasonably enable the student to meet his or her post-secondary goals? Transition services are a coordinated set of activities, not annual goals. Transition services are activities, strategies, steps, actions that the community of adults provides to help the student achieve his or her post-secondary goals. Transition services include instruction-related services, community experiences, and courses of study, as well as other relevant activities. Service providers should be listed as party responsible. So if you're documenting in your IEP that you are using DVR, that needs to be documented as a responsible party. And boilerplate transition services used for multiple students are not based on individual needs. So again, everything needs to be based on individual needs and individualized for the student. So we do have some examples of transition service statements. For instance, for instruction, the case manager will assist Brian in researching the eligibility requirements and services provided by the College Disability Access Center. Brian's parents will take him to tour the college, including the Access Center. The special education teacher will provide instruction and modeling in how to advocate for his learning needs during class to prepare for college courses. An example of a related service, transition service, the occupational therapist will provide modeling and direct instruction in self-help activities to include teeth and hair brushing and self-feeding, to help facilitate semi-independent living. Community experiences. The case manager will provide Emily with practice in learning how to locate transportation resources and learn transportation routes to and from an automotive training school. The transition specialist will provide Emily with automotive job shadow experiences in the community. So question 5, do the transition services include courses of study that will reasonably enable the student to meet his or her post-secondary goals? Best practice is a multi-year description of coursework from the student's current to anticipated exit year. I believe on our model form, you basically just list the coursework that they will be doing this year and the following years. It is acceptable to list a description of the coursework, but typically what we'll see on our forms is a specific course list, and we have an example later. Best practice also indicates that in addition to being multi-year specific and individualized and linked to the post-secondary goals, it should stand up to the stranger test. Is it clear and transferable to another school? As with all of our files, if our student were to transfer to another school, we want to make sure that everything within the file, within the IEP, is documented well enough so that someone could get that file for that student and be able to go based off of all of their coursework, their post-secondary goals, without any further instruction. So, question 6 on the checklist is their annual IEP goal related to the student's post-secondary goals and transition service needs? Annual goals state what the student will do or learn within the next year towards their post-secondary goal and link to transition services. The linkage between the annual goals and the post-secondary goals and transition services must be direct, specific, and genuine. Question 7 on the checklist. Is there evidence that the student was invited to the IEP team meeting where transition services were available, or were discussed, excuse me? So we need to know that there is documented evidence in the IEP file that the student was invited to participate in his or her meeting prior to the day of the meeting. Notice of meeting addressed specifically to the student may be co-addressed to the parents, or a copy of a separate invitation to the student, or documentation of verbal invitation. So the notice of meeting, the student's name must be listed as an attendee on the attendance sheet. So as long as the student has signed the IEP, we'll know that they're there. The very last question on the checklist is question 8. If appropriate, is there evidence that a representative of any participating agency was invited to the IEP team meeting with the prior consent of the parent or student who has reached the age of majority? Consent must be provided prior to the date of the IEP meeting. Consent is valid for 1 year from the date provided. Parent or student who has reached the age of majority may refuse to provide consent. So if an outside agency was invited, consent must be provided. All right, pretty short and sweet on the questions. Now we've put together some examples. Again, this will be, these are ones that we pulled directly from IEPs, some of them are. And so we like to kind of highlight what we consider to be a post-secondary goal that is in compliance, but also follows best practice. So, and a good example of a measurable post-secondary goal is after high school graduation, Nancy will enroll in the cosmetology program at the community college. And a measurable post-secondary goal for career and employment is Nancy will obtain employment as a cosmetologist. Now, these are good examples because, again, they do address that these are going to be met. These goals are for after they exit the public school system. They use active voice. They use words as will. They're a specific outcome rather than an activity. So a non-example, basically these are very vague examples. The team will explore a variety of possible post-secondary education and training opportunities. And the same for career and employment. The team will explore a variety of possible post-secondary career and employment opportunities. These are both considered non-examples because they're very vague, they're not outcome specific. And really, the biggest thing is that it focuses on what the team will do rather than what the student will do. We want to make sure that the goals are focused on what the student will be doing. Okay, so back to an example. For post-secondary education and training, after high school, Kim will complete the Community College Registered Nurse Certificate Program. For career employment, again with Kim, after high school, Kim will be employed full-time as a registered nurse. And again, I know I'm being redundant, but these are measurable. They say when to be completed, so after exiting public education, and it is a specific outcome. Non-example, after high school, Karen will explore training opportunities in the hospitality industry. After high school, Karen will consider a career in the hospitality industry. Now, both of these examples, they do suggest that it's happening after Karen exits the public school system, but using words like will explore training opportunities is not specific, it's not an actual outcome, it's just an activity that she's going to do, and it's not specific enough to provide us with a post-secondary outcome. Okay, so for these ones, we are looking to whether or not these are examples or non-examples. And anyone can shout out if you want to, otherwise I'll just kind of go through it. But the first one, after high school, Tiffany will research on-the-job training. So do you think that is an example or a non-example? A non-example, you're right. So this one is a non-example because, again, it's not a specific outcome. She's just going to be doing an activity of researching. We don't know what kind of on-the-job training it is. We don't know if the research is even going to be completed. It's just not specific or measurable enough. The second one, after high school, Tiffany will be employed full-time as an auto body repair specialist. Jenny?
Oh, well, you're asking, sorry, Kelly put me on the spot. Kelly, I would say that was a non-example.
Actually, this one is an example, Jenny.
Oh,
so
sorry.
Thank you for volunteering.
Oh, well, Jenny is an example. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
I
read the wrong one.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I put Jenny on the spot. So the second one is an example because it is after she exited high school. And it is specific to an outcome for what she is going to do after high school, and it uses active rather than passive voice.
No, I mean, just tell them.
I will, Dan. All right, so moving right along here. Okay, so this is an example for courses of study. As you can see here, it outlines each school year by specific classes that the student will be taking. And it is a 4-year course of study with each individual class that is specific and individualized to the student. A non-example that we will see from time to time is just a general statement. I can hear a few of you, so I'm going to make sure. Okay, good. Okay. So just a general statement saying Cody will complete all required courses and electives necessary for high school graduation. Well, we agree that that's great. We do need to see specific coursework that they will be participating in order to graduate from high school with those goals. All right, so that is pretty much the gist of it. We wanted to keep it short, sweet, again, as Jenny said, transparent. And what we are going to do, and we have had a couple of questions about this, and so I wanted to make sure that you all know that this is available to you. Both, we are going to post it on our Wyoming Instructional Network. So this video is going to be recorded, and it's going to be posted on the Wyoming Instructional Network /resources/transition, as well as the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is going to be available to you. And then we're doing a follow-up webinar 2 weeks from today at the same time. So on January 24th at 11 a.m., we'll do a follow-up webinar going through the same examples and questions from the NSTAC checklist. But what we wanted to do in that second webinar was also compile kind of a list of frequently asked questions when it comes to Indicator 13. I'm sure we do have lots of questions from you. So if you would be willing to send those questions to us, to either myself or to Jenny, over email, I will definitely respond to your email, but then I'd also like to compile a list of frequently asked questions from that so that we can share it both on the WinWeb, the Wyoming Instructional Network, and in our next webinar. The NSTAC Indicator 13 checklist, like I said, is also already posted here. And the video will be available shortly. It does take a little bit to download, but we will post it there also. All right. Jenny, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Again, we will have another presentation on January 4th at 11 a.m., and we look forward to seeing you then.
January 24th.
Mm-hmm.
24th.
Didn't I say that? Oh, I'm sorry, not January 4th. That's
January
already
24th.
passed. January 24th at 11 a.m. All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Have a great day.